Welcome back to the X Podcast. I am sitting at the table with Mr. Tim Moore. Special guest Kylie. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing well. So this conversation I am very excited about. This is kind of a culmination of a lot of topics we've been talking about. Number one, we're in a series in the book of James. So we've been talking a lot about wisdom. And we had a conversation on what does it look like to get wisdom if we're trying to make decisions, that kind of thing. We've also been having a lot of conversations around fitness, body image, all those kind of things. And then you and I have been having kind of a private conversation around apathy and drive. And you and I had a conversation last week that I just felt like hit all three. And I was like, okay, we got to make this happen. And you're about to move.
Yes.
So, Kylie, just in short form, what's your story? You're from Columbus, Ohio, from this area. Who are you?
Yeah.
Give us your Instagram bio.
My Instagram bio. Well, first of all, I don't have social media.
It's true.
But, so I grew up here in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
I'm a country girl at heart. I grew up on a pig farm. I learned very blue collar work at a young age.
Did you kill the pigs?
I personally didn't, but it's part of it.
Yeah.
4-H and things like that. And immediately fell in love with sports at a very, very young age. 4 years old. Actually started racing dirt bikes. That was my first sport.
Wow.
And need for speed, love adrenaline.
Yeah.
And
me too.
He hates cars.
No, I love cars and fast ones.
Fast.
Yeah.
So, so that was my very early beginning in sports. Actually, dirt bikes, that was my first real sport. And then my dad put me in soccer, basketball, track and field, and I was always very fast.
Yeah.
And so my nickname was Rabbit because I could run really fast and jump really high. And, in any sport, speed kills.
Yeah.
So
you dominated in sports.
This is just his language right now.
High school, career,
Yeah,
all that
everything.
good stuff,
Yeah.
middle school, high school age, you dominated. Did you play all those sports?
I did. And then I knew I had to, focus in on one single sport once I got a little bit older.
Yeah.
So at 15 years old, I devoted my whole life to track and field, and I never looked back. And
Literally. You still are.
Yes.
15 years old, track and field. What were your primary events?
100 meter and 200 meters.
Okay. Do you remember, I'm just curious, what was your 100 and 200 time in high school?
High school, 1180.
Okay.
And
for people who don't know,
2390.
that would be for the 100.
Yes.
That'd be a really fast 200.
Yeah, so the 200
and what was your
2390.
2390
Yeah.
is fast. In high school? No wonder you went to Ohio State.
Who are your running heroes?
Oh, Flojo.
Flojo.
Yeah,
Florence.
Florence Griffith.
Yeah.
She was.
You old enough to remember her?
No.
She wasn't really
no,
competing.
that was 80s. Yeah, that was in the 80s when she was raiding. But her story was beautiful.
Yeah.
She was the epitome of what it looks like to express yourself in it just is art form. Her sprinting was so beautiful. It was like God expressing himself through her. Just to watch that, you see the greatest athletes, artists in the world. Most of them all tell you it's not them doing it. It's just, it becomes, you take a step back.
Yeah.
And you're just the body that channels. And so, that's what I fell in love with her.
Was it we didn't mention this today, was it Eric Liddell?
Yeah.
That has that famous quote when he was running the Olympics. Was it, when I run, I feel God's pleasure in my back.
Correct.
From Chariots of Fire.
Yeah.
So you those are your primary two?
Yes, that was it. And then when I went to college at Ohio State, they were trying to train me to be a heptathlete, which is 7 events.
Yeah.
But
which is that even in the Olympics?
It is.
I know that the decathlon is,
but the deck.
Oh, the hep is as well.
The hep is what
is
women
it
compete in, and the deck are men.
So what are the 7? Real fast.
Long jump, high jump, shot put, javelin, 100-meter hurdles, 200-meter dash, 800-meter run.
Okay. You hated the 800, didn't you?
Yeah, I hated it.
You're not very good in the 800.
I have a lot of willpower.
Were you
so
not good? Oh.
I'll make it happen.
But see, like sprinters like yourself.
Yeah.
You can't pace.
No.
No, so you run out of the gates like crazy, and then you die.
Did you used to do track?
Yeah, I ran track.
Okay,
senior year.
I forgot. I pick up on a lot of.
There's a reason why I'm saying that because they put me in the I started in the 400 because I wasn't fast enough for the 1 and 2, and then by the end of the year, the coach was like, "Let's move you to the 800 because I wasn't fast enough in the 400." And so I've told this story before, but like the regional, we were in Germany at the time, or like regional qualifiers for the 800, and it was only like my second time running it. So I get out and I just took off with everything in me in the 800, and I was out in front. It was the greatest feeling ever for about 650.
Yep.
About 650 yards. It was amazing. I was out in front. Nobody could touch me. And then something happened in the last 100 yards. I died. Literally about died.
Yeah.
And about 5 other people passed me on the last like 20 or 30 yards.
This is tragic.
It was tragic. I ended up in 6th place.
Did you cry?
No, I didn't really care. I signed up to do track and field because my best friend told me, you should do track and field. We get to do a, 10, 20, 60-second event, do a few of them, spend the rest of the time meeting girls.
So that's what
Literally,
you do.
that's why I did track and field. That's
right.
I had never done it before. I played basketball, I played soccer, baseball. I've done all of this other, but that's why I did track and field.
So Kylie,
much
I
fun.
feel like
And high
your
jump.
professional career has been a little bit more focused.
Pretty similar. I mean, what's your 800 time? No, I'm just kidding. She would destroy me. But anyways,
so
back to your story.
We should have a race at the end of
Hey,
this.
why
Both
would
of you.
any of us race her? That's
can.
not happening. Okay,
so where did your career take you?
Oh, okay.
Ohio State
Yeah.
to start.
So are you asking like physical location or just in general?
The journey.
Yeah,
The journey
Yeah.
itself.
The journey, because that has to do with Olympics.
Yes. So from 15, I knew at that moment track and field was what I wanted to do in college, as well as I wrote, from a young girl, I am going to be the fastest woman in the world. Like that was it. In school, in projects, the only person that I would do like biographies on was FloJo. I looked up to her only, for what she had done on the track.
Yeah.
So yes, at 15, I knew.
Have you always been a driven person?
Very.
You're very driven.
Yes. It's very black and white with me. I don't know anything else.
You only see one color, and it's red. And it's like, I will destroy you and beat you.
So
You were that person.
yeah.
She's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a genetic thing?
Yeah, where's that come
I'm
from?
not saying necessarily dad or mom, but it does seem like it through not just my years playing sports, but really having girls and them grow up and play sports. And they play on different teams, and you would just meet a few that are just, I feel like, made a little different.
Yeah.
Like they're just, you're probably one of those. They're just made different. It's like, gosh, my daughter's be like, I don't care that much. You know what I mean? My older's like, well, I don't want to play soccer anymore. You know what I mean?
And Kylie's like, I will change the world. I will destroy any fool pitiful
That's
enough.
what I'm wondering, like, what makes somebody so like that?
Well, I think everyone has that in them. They're just, they don't take enough time to sit back and do self-reflection to know what their real exact path is.
Yeah.
I think everyone, you're gifted in speaking and communicating your words. I'm gifted in athletics, so me expressing myself through physical form is literally God expressing himself through me. You expressing yourself up here on stage, you as well. It's just God expressing himself through him. So, I'm sure genetics definitely play a role in it because we are, at the end of the day, we have to live in this human body, but it has limitations. And so, there are physical limitations that the body has, but I don't believe that the spirit has any. It's infinite.
Yeah.
So
You don't have very many, though, do you? I kind of get this sense already. You don't have very many. So you, 15-year-old, never got burned out in high school. I mean, that's the thing.
No,
I know
I
a lot of
didn't.
them. You get burned out real
You
fast.
do.
My daughter
No.
did track for a little bit, and then by the time she was like injuries and others, she was like, I just don't want to be in pain anymore. I'm done. Whereas you're the type that's, this is your focus.
Well, for me, even from a young age, it was never, it wasn't really physical. It wasn't the physical that I just craved as much as it was what it did for me when I got to express myself. That was what was so addicting and still is to this day. We had a conversation last week, and you were like, well, what's next for you now that your competing days are over? And I said, I will immediately go into another sport or something to compete in.
Pickleball.
No, actually,
Yeah.
I'm considering cycling.
Oh.
Yeah, Tour de France.
To do it on a professional level like
Maybe.
that?
We'll
like
see.
Are those? Oh, I was just thinking pickleball now. She's like, no, Tour de France. Like, I probably am going to cycle across Asia. I don't know. Okay.
No, it's
We're cut from different cloth. I can already tell.
it's just that hard physical training that it allows me to elevate to that higher realm, that higher level, because when you are so in tune with what you're doing, it flows effortlessly. And so being able to put myself in those very, very extreme, uncomfortable situations physically allows me to kind of, it's almost like a meditation almost for me. It's peaceful. It's peace. It's pure peace. It's joy.
Which is so crazy. Brock that's been on here.
You knew you were going to mention
distance
runners.
We had a guy in here that just does ultra marathons for fun. Like every other month. Like 200, he just did like a 250 miler. But his biggest thing is he talks about there's a zone he gets in.
What's his last name?
Everhart.
Okay, all right. Because I know a Brock, but it's a different one. And he does ultra marathons as well.
Yeah, and he's just like, I just feel like
I
this
think
almost
that's what
peaceful
Brocks do.
meditation. Yeah,
If
if your name's Brock,
you pretty much have to run.
you're either a wrestler or an ultra
I don't-
marathoner.
yeah,
Yeah. So anyways, okay, this is fascinating. So a lot of like your physical demand, you feel like not only is a self-expression, but it also elevates you from a mental discipline standpoint.
Absolutely.
It creates that inner space for you to experience, peace or whatever it may be. Okay, so Ohio State.
Yes.
And then how does your career continue to?
Okay, high school, go to States my senior year of high school, and at that point I had a lot of college offers. But I did not go to Ohio State my freshman year. I ended up going to University of Miami of Ohio in Oxford. The reason being was because a lot of the athletes who were already there were professional already. They were training there, or they were getting ready to be professional, and they had that same mentality as me. It was dog eat dog, and they were just going to elevate me as an athlete. So I went there because it's very, you can have a lot of one-on-one time. And that environment, it's chaotic, and it's nice to be in if you have the goals that I had at that time. So I went to Miami my freshman year knowing I wasn't going to stay. Because they were already getting ready to leave. Actually, the girl who left, who I had went there to train with, she ended up going to Baylor University. She 800-meter runner, 2 minutes flat, like cake every day of her life. She could run it. Just an incredible athlete. You too. Yeah. So I followed her there. She
probably
left.
a little bit more, but it wasn't a whole lot more. But it was probably a little bit more.
She went to Baylor, and then I decided to come back to Ohio State. Came back to Ohio State.
When was this? What year?
That would have been
How old are you?
2015, so I would have been 18, 19 years old. I was 18, turning 19.
How old are you now?
28.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Have y'all met?
Yes.
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
Yes.
Not a ton. I haven't spent a lot of time.
Because a lot, not everybody from our that watches from our faith community, but you've been part of our church for
2 years.
Okay.
2 years now.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
But anyways.
this was 2017, you said? 2015? When?
2015, I got to Ohio State.
Okay.
So I was there 15, 16, half of 17, and then got the opportunity to move down to Miami, Florida, Coral Gables. I trained at UM and Tropical Park, beautiful area.
Okay.
And I moved down there to actually train with a Russian sports scientist, Dr. Nicholas Romanov. He came from the Soviet Union.
Romanov, spy.
Romanov. That's it. No.
Was he a spy?
I don't know. His wife might have been.
Whoa.
Yeah. See, Romanovs are spies.
There's an electric company around here that has that same name, and every time we mention it, he thinks they're Russian spies. So, okay, so you went to train with a Russian spy.
She did work for the CIA, by the way.
Tell Jenny.
Okay. So you trained with a Russian spy for a little bit down in Florida.
Yes.
Right? Or is this in Florida?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Miami, Florida. So I trained down there with him.
Why were you trained? Okay. Most people go to college to get a degree. You were not going to college to get a degree. You were going to college to get training.
Yeah.
To get developed.
Running. Yes.
With a goal. What was the goal? The fastest girl in the world, woman in the world. That's one really big goal, right? But before you get there, what are the steps? What's the next goal? Olympics?
Olympic
trials.
Make Olympic trials.
Okay.
And my first opportunity would have been 2020. And 2021, because they had got moved back a year, and I had ended up tearing my Achilles. So once I tore the Achilles, it set me back for 9 months. It was a very long road back.
Only 9 months?
Yeah, I was able to come back within 3 months. I was back. I was. I would actually go to the.
Usually that's at least 9 to 12 months for athletes. I know football players. It's a minimum like 9 to 12. Usually they tell them it's like 12 months to be back actively.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about NFL level as an athlete. Maybe it's a little bit different too in sprinting because you're not doing as much cutting and you're just going straight. But so you rehabbed and you're back. Are you back almost at full though at 9 months?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Back to your same speed and stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
I took that very seriously. I was obsessed. I became obsessed with the healing process. I went to the extreme of even going to Walgreens and buying insulin needles so that I could drain like the fluid that way that I could have like the range of motion to be able to move. And, I was just obsessed with it. I needed it. I craved it. I knew, at that point in my life, I was like, it was so weird. I knew that there was like something deeper that I was suppressing because I was going crazy, that I couldn't run, I couldn't compete. And I just, I at that point, I wasn't spiritually mature enough to go deep within myself to understand where that yearning or what was causing that, why I desired it so bad to compete. And, it took me till about now, I'm 28 years old now, to finally see the light and understand that it just truly wasn't my path. It's not the real path that God has for me. There's a difference between, like surviving. Like I always felt like I was just surviving while I was competing, because I never cared about competing to win. I never cared about competing to get all the trophies and money and sponsorships. I cared to know who I was. To know, deep within my soul, like, who am I at my core? And track was able to take me there, So, yeah, my journey has been so weird. It was never like a linear journey in track and field, because most athletes who get to that level of Olympics or even qualify for the Olympic trials, it's very like, it's almost like a step. It's go to college, get your degree, and then, go to the Olympic trials, sign with a professional contract, compete in Europe, retire. And that was it. And that never settled well with me. I don't know.
It's not big enough.
No.
I'm with you.
I don't know that it was that. I just think that it was, it was deeper. It was.
That wasn't your goal.
No.
You didn't care that much about that path.
It wasn't. Of course I was obsessed with it being a young kid, because that's what the world tells you that you need. The world tells you need the money, the fame, the pat on the back, and I was obsessed with that. You fall into that. It's a distraction, though. I fell in love with the art of running. I fell in love with the art of sprinting. I watch athletes move, and I love to see art express itself. Whether it's Kobe or LeBron shooting a basketball, or Beethoven, playing music. It's the expression through, and that's what I fell in love with.
It's interesting.
I love that. And what's interesting about you even analyzing that part of yourself to say, hey, like, this isn't actually what I really want, is, from what I understand, you began to already accumulate all the things that in the world's eyes would say you made it. Like scholarships, I think you said. Like, what all started coming your way even in qualifying for pre-Olympics?
What was that?
What was it that started coming your way in terms of just accolades and all the things that the world would say, okay, she made it?
So definitely scholarships. That would be like the first thing, and then from there, getting the opportunity to move down to Florida to train at the highest level, to not signing but being in communication with Adidas, and having that pressure on me, though. It was so weird because at that time in my life, I vividly remember that it was April of 2019. I flew out to Chula Vista, California, and I competed out there. And I was in communication with an agent for signing a really nice contract with Adidas. And I just felt dirty. I felt like this isn't right. This isn't me. I didn't know at the time what it was, though. So I had went out there, and I remember I just jogged. I had a 100-meter race, and I was like, I'm just going to jog today. Because I just didn't.
For the race?
Yeah, I just jogged.
You jogged the whole entire race?
Mm-hmm.
You came in dead last?
Of course.
What was your time?
11:09.
That's not a jog.
I mean, it was
okay.
It was a jog.
I'm picturing like here she comes across at 19 seconds, and they all finished at 11 and 10, and she's got night, and you're just like the gun goes off, and she just pops right up and just.
I vividly remember it because I was so checked out at that point. I had on a pair of Calvin Klein pajama pants because it was really cold out there, so I just ran in them.
You were self-sabotaging the contract.
Not really knowing why.
Why? Okay,
You
was
did
part
know
of the
why. That's
reason.
fascinating.
Okay, I don't want to mix timelines because there's so
Yeah.
much here.
There
But like,
is, yeah.
you know, it's interesting talking about the culture of some of elite athleticism and coaches. You know, we've had Addie on here. She's talked about like when she was flown out for some of that stuff. What are you laughing about?
Sorry, I just keep wanting to interject just stupid stuff.
Yeah, these are ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you know, she talked about some of the grossness she saw in some of the
Yeah.
insider industry. And you said something I found fascinating, and so I want you to explain it, but it had to do with bales.
Yeah, so Commonwealth Games.
Okay.
Those are in Birmingham. Those are like one step down in I guess the track and field world. You have Commonwealth Games, you have World Championships, and Olympics. Commonwealth Games happen every year,
Okay.
summer. World Championships are every other year in track and field, and then Olympics obviously every 4. So yes, so their opening ceremony every year in the Commonwealth Games is to, and they bring a massive bowl out.
Mm-hmm.
It is bow, red eyes, and you worship bow.
Like what do you mean worship? Wow.
Well, you know, you could look it up online, but most athletes, they'll like literally like get down on like their hands and knees, and they'll like
So
like.
do you,
bow
you think
down
that
and everything.
this is shocking? It's odd. That's that's just a very ancient deity that people worshipped. I'm just not saying people still haven't to this day. Do you think with most of the people in that environment, are they doing it out of I don't know what's the term I'm thinking of? It's almost more like tradition, or do you think that there is an actual I don't know, they sense that they're like worshiping a deity? Or do you think it's kind of like this off-putting to you spiritually and everything, like this people are playing along with this, like become the tradition of these games? Or do you think it's like real? Because I mean, it's just interesting to hear. I would have never imagined.
I don't know. I kept my distance so much from that, so I
that's a
can't
good thing.
speak for someone else.
Yeah.
But being in that world for so long, I truly think that a lot of them
Really?
they do.
Yeah.
You know, it sucks you in. That life sucks you in because once the money starts flowing and then the fame starts coming, you know, it's a very easy pit to fall into because the distractions just keep coming. And so at that point, you kind of lose sight of who you are.
Yeah.
It's like you gain the world, but
Yeah,
you lose your soul.
There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of these athletes they do that. And you know, it's just the way our world's going. You know, you see athletes nowadays, like if they speak about their love for God on TV, it's immediately taking off. Like they don't. You don't get any time for that.
Yeah.
They don't air that.
They
very
cut it.
long. They cut it.
Yeah, I've heard.
And so I don't understand, you know, but also sports, there's a fine line between sports being like a spiritual experience, like what I used it for, or sports being a money market and a money pit, which in our world is exactly what it is. There are still athletes, you know, who see it as a spiritual experience, but it's not a lot.
Yeah. So you're doing, you are working your way toward the Olympic and trials. You have to qualify.
Correct.
Right. So
And,
either at collegiate events, national events, those
Olympic
games,
trials.
the Olympic trials, right? You have
yes.
to qualify to get to those.
You do. You have to qualify. You have to run an auto qualifying time, and then you have to make it to the Olympic trials. So right in 2020, I had torn my Achilles for the second time, and at that point, I knew. I was like, you know
In
what?
2020?
Yeah, right before 21.
Okay.
Preparing for, because remember they were pushed back an entire
But didn't
year.
you also telling me that you qualified for an Olympic team in 2018 before you?
The bobsled team, correct? Yeah.
So this is funny because all I can think of is
Cool Runnings.
Cool Runnings, right? The movie with the Jamaican bobsled team.
Yeah.
But you were saying that's a common thing, sprinters, because that's what they
Always.
want, obviously. So they will switch over to.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's what
Yeah.
she was saying. And
Yeah.
so did you say you qualified
I
for
did.
the Olympic
Yes, and then-
bobsled team in
yes.
2018? That would be the Winter Olympics of 2018.
Correct.
You were going to compete.
Yes, I would
For
have
the
moved
US.
immediately. I was out there in the end of June, early July, Chula Vista. You go out there and you'll basically what they do, because a lot of track athletes, they go out for this. And
Okay.
you have testers, so you have like a 30-meter all-out sprint. You'll
Yeah.
have like overhead med ball throws, just because they want to test like your explosive power, overall strength, things like that. So yeah, so you go through all the tests. I mean, not to my own horn, but
No, you can't. Go for it.
I did very, very well out there. And then I had flown back here to Ohio, and the coach had called me and was like, hey, like, we would really love you for a pusher,
Yep.
not the driver.
You just have to run really fast
And
and then
push.
jump in.
Yep. So, that's what I was going to do. And I didn't love it. Like,
Right,
it
it's
was,
not your
yeah,
passion.
it wasn't my passion.
It's how you trained in the winter.
Yeah, exactly. What was it?
Is how you were training in the winter. Or you said that people train in the winter sometimes and do that.
Yeah.
It helps keep them in
Right,
shape
yeah.
as a sprinter. And it'd
Yeah.
be cool because you get to go to the Olympics for
Yeah.
the U.S. and bobsled, right?
Yeah.
Granted, there's snow there, but so you were going to do that
Yep.
in 2018 with hopefully to compete in the Olympics, and then you tore your Achilles.
That was
Right?
the first.
First time you did, in
And
2018.
then again in 2020. And from that point on, it was just
just
never
like-
the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, life wasn't the same.
No,
and
your
then,
Achilles isn't the same.
No.
Have you slowed down a lot because of it? I mean, can I take you now or no?
You wouldn't take me. Right now.
I love
That was an
I mean, that's
absolute
something we should
joke.
try.
That was
Like-
an absolute joke. But I mean, has it affected your ability? Like even
Yeah.
at rehab, I'm sure
Yeah,
it has
yeah.
some, right?
Yeah, I mean, you'll definitely. I notice it.
Yeah.
But it's part of.
Yeah.
I just deal with it. It doesn't stop me. I saw it as okay, this happened, so there's a reason for it, and now I move on.
Okay.
It wasn't like, oh, my life is over.
Yeah.
I just understood that. I always saw the greater purpose of it.
Mm.
I took a step back and I realized that, well, this isn't my path in
Yeah.
life. So
You seem quite okay with that at this point.
absolutely.
At the time, was it not quite that black and white for
No.
you? I mean, I know you're like, I'm black and white, but I got to imagine that there was some massive disappointment. There was, what do I do with myself?
Yeah, it was my whole identity. It's what I identified with.
Yeah.
It was the way that the world saw me and the way that I saw myself.
Yeah.
That's,
How'd you rewire that? What have you been doing the last 2 years?
to be really honest, and I don't recommend this to anyone, but I isolated myself from the entire world because I needed to know who I was at my absolute core. And I knew that it was going to be an absolutely brutal journey. The worst journey I've ever went on in my life. But even the times when I was injured, I knew there was something deeper. I was like, why do I have this itch and this desire? I
Yeah.
can't sit in my own house. Like, what's going on? There's like a deeper something at the core level. So yeah, I've been isolating.
What does that mean, isolating? Explain yourself. Please. You don't have to. That sounded pretty bad. Explain yourself.
You're making
No,
us get aggressive.
What does that mean,
Yeah.
isolate yourself? Isolating
You know,
yourself
I-
from the track and field world,
That-
isolating yourself from the
People,
world,
the
from
world,
people.
the world.
You're not on social media, so
No.
that's a part of isolation.
Yeah,
Maybe you've never
You've
had.
been almost like semi-retired.
Pretty much.
You've been almost living like a retired person.
Yeah, that's what my brother says. He's like,
So you like live in your house.
yeah,
And
I was just living in my house, working at the time.
Okay.
Where?
Actually, Rickenbacker Aviation.
Oh, nice.
I love aviation.
Yeah, okay.
This is totally separate, but I did dive into flying helicopters for about 2 years. At the time, I thought that I wanted to fly helicopter to fly for med flight. I always
Yeah.
have had that
Okay.
desire to help people. I just didn't know which route God wanted me to go.
Okay.
So I was like, I'm tired of fighting and forcing with life. I'm tired of running with my head cut off to get nowhere, right? I'm tired of the distractions, and I need to face who I am. So I am getting rid of all of the distractions. I will work out at my own house. I will pretty much do nothing. And I literally read books all day, listened to podcasts.
Ferocious. Like I mentioned to you 2 or 3 books, and you immediately got out your phone,
Yeah.
wrote them down. You're like, okay, I'm ordering them now.
The Last Arrow I did buy.
Oh, that's a good book.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So
So-
you read books and
Just really-
What kind of books do you read?
Spiritual.
Really?
Yeah. Like, it's tying the spiritual with the physical.
Yeah.
One of my favorites all time is The Game of Life and How to Play It. It's written in the early 1930s by an author. It's tricky, it's kind of metaphysical, but it's also spiritual.
Gotcha.
She adds in like Bible verses and how she ties into like, your thoughts become things. And she, and this is something that really rewired me and made me take a step back and be like, I need to reevaluate my life. She explains life, and it has like four like like a perfect square. And she says the game of life is your health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression. And so I took a step back, and I'm like, okay, what is it in this square that I'm missing? I have my health. I'm financially stable. I have perfect self-expression only when I'm running or physically moving. But I'm lacking the ability to love, like fully love. And, so that was, love is what makes the world go around. To being able to be like vulnerable and open and, comfortably be who I am, but also express myself out of love to other human beings, not just for myself on the track.
So
That's where
there's so much in what you said I think is important to kind of unpack. One, I love that you prefaced it with, I'm not recommending this.
Yeah.
Because, one of the things that we talk about is there is a difference between isolation and solitude.
Yeah.
And sounds like in the middle, and none of us do them perfectly. So it sounds like you ended up in the middle of that having some solitude, which was healthy, which does force you to face yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, you really don't truly find out who you are except for in the context of community. And your 4th quadrant in the square that you talked about was learning to love by being vulnerable. So I'm curious, like, if you feel comfortable sharing, how did you learn? Like, was it with your family, with friends? Like, how did you begin to, okay, I'm going to start opening up. I'm going to start letting down walls.
You can't love others unless you don't, until you love yourself. So I loved myself when I competed well. I loved myself on like terms of how the world judges you. I loved myself because performance.
If you performed well,
I
you
loved
loved yourself.
myself. And if I didn't, I was so hard on myself.
Yeah.
I would train 3 times a day, brutal, to the point of exhaustion to where I couldn't even sleep at night because, my adrenaline is going and my central nervous system is completely shot. Right?
Wait, is this why I can't sleep at night?
Yeah, you train 3 times
because
a day.
well, I don't train like you ever. I wouldn't be here. But like I've noticed. Sorry, I'm just going to ask you a question because I feel like you're a pro in this. Like I feel like on days when I should, by conventional wisdom, sleep better, days when I've gotten 20,000 steps, eaten pretty well, gone for a run, worked out, those are the nights that most would say I would sleep the best. That I can barely sleep at all. Is it the adrenaline?
That's a good question. I don't really know. There might actually be something else at a deeper level that's, not physical that's causing, sleeplessness or, because physically when the body's calm and you'll sleep
well.
fine,
Huh.
Maybe you have restless leg syndrome.
Is that real?
Yes, it's a real thing.
So the central nervous system is a very I love it. I love learning about it, and so every time that you train very hard, it takes 72 hours to recover the body fully, right? So the body runs in 21-day cycles. Every human being in the earth do. So how, when you train in 21-day cycles, it's like following like the rhythm of nature, basically. And so for you to be sleepless, it could just be that, there's something maybe on an emotional level or something like that, because the body follows the mind. It's not the other way around. So yeah, go out and train yourself to exhaustion, but if there's something that's triggering your central nervous system to not allow the body to relax to sleep, that might be worth looking into.
Never know.
That's good.
So do you even have time for relationships?
Yeah, definitely now, for sure.
No.
I never, especially like in college, and coming out of college, I was.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you seem like the type to me. It's like, I don't have time for friends.
No.
I don't have time for dating. I don't have time for anybody else. I'm focused on accomplishing my goals.
Yeah, no, I was very honest and upfront. Like when I was living in Miami, it's filled with a bunch of pretty boys. So I was very honest. Like, you could take me out, you can buy me food and buy me clothes, but I'm not dating.
I'm not interested in a date.
That's honest. You can buy me everything in life
if you want,
but you can't buy my love.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
And of course, I just feel like every timing, God's timing and your timing. We don't like to wait around. And I was telling Pastor Russ the other day, I think God, he ran out of husbands for me or something. But no, I'm definitely ready for that next chapter of my life now. Now that I've completely shut that book to track and field, to competing, now I'm in the very next chapter of being open and giving to the world.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
what's your life look like in the next chapter?
So I actually just took a new job down in Charleston, South Carolina. I will be working at a big gym down there as a head coach. Strength and performance is more of like a hybrid style training. So, running, lifting, biking, general population, which is another thing that kind of took my ego a little bit to get used to. I have been fighting it for a while. Like, I just thought I needed to be at like the Olympic Training Center or, be around like the best in the world or whatever you want to, however you want to word that. And I wasn't comfortable in that world. So I took this job down there, and it's just a very beautiful community of people who truly love their faith more than they love anything. And, my job is to help you physically, of course, but I want you to leave feeling good about yourself in all areas of your life. Don't just come in for a good workout and, post a pic on Instagram and like let's get a little bit deeper and being more like open and vulnerable. Like I want to help you in all areas of your life. I think the physical is just a doorway to getting to that spiritual level. So yeah, that's what life looks like. I don't really have much of a plan. It's just God's plan. It all worked out. I'm moving in a week
and you just took this job.
I
just
walk us through this decision making, because and we met last week. But this has been something. I think it seems like over the last 2 years. Not to put words in your mouth. You can correct me if this is wrong, but kind of going back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago. You feel like you're in no man's land. You're isolating yourself. Some offers are coming.
Yeah.
But you feel like you're just trying to figure out your purpose, and then finally you realize, okay, I've got to step out. And take a step and lean into something that's serving people. And so this came. How did you decide this was the job to take?
So I had a lot of offers coming in from multiple different gyms, and I was able to sit back, reflect, and talk to every single person that was interviewing me. The biggest thing for me was the community that they have down there. I didn't go in immediately and see the coach, well, the owners of the gym, he and his wife. I went to the trainers and I went to the people. What type of community do you have here? Where's the focus at? And what type of people come in this place? And it was kind of, I just feel like God is the Prince of Peace. So if you have peace in your heart, it's like we were talking the other day, am I making it like egoic decision? Is my ego making this decision for me because I want to go live on the beach and lay in the sun and, coach at a gym, or am I making this decision because I'm being led to this decision? And I truly feel like I'm being led to it because everything has fallen into place. I have not had to do anything, nothing. It's all just like spiraled.
Well, and I think the reason I bring it up is because, you know, we had a podcast we're talking about just kind of the nitty gritty of decision making, the nuances of wisdom. And when you said that, I think I told you, it reminds me of, like, I think one of the most powerful things you can do when you make decisions is go by vision. It's the decision by vision. And so what I just heard you say is part of your vision had to do with the who. And so that just struck a chord with me because, you know, when I lived in Atlanta before I came here, there was about a solid 6 or 7 months of like sifting through, okay, where am I going to move? What am I going to do?
Right. And
so I journaled, and one of the 3 things I journaled that I just felt like, okay, God, these are my criteria. At the top of that list was the who. Wherever I move is going to have to be the kind of community that I can imagine myself doing life with. Wherever I go is also going to have to be the kind of community that I actually want to help shape who I'm becoming. And I just think, like, sometimes we don't think about that, you know, and I know, like, most people listening to this may not be about to make a move out of state.
Right.
But I just think in everyday life, it's important to think when you're making decisions, what's the vision? And I think one of the most powerful factors in your decision and vision making is the who.
Yeah.
I think the who at times is even more important than the what.
Yeah. Well,
because
that was
that's,
wise.
you know.
So
but-
you're going to be transitioning down there, moving or being a head coach where it's like training people, but not training people to compete.
Correct. Just general
just
population.
people that
just
need
regular,
a trainer.
normal day-to-day
Okay.
people.
And so what else are you going to do?
Well, I will be by the beach.
Okay.
So I will definitely be going to the beach.
You'll be going to the beach.
Now
it's not a
that-
farm,
Hey,
but that's
Yeah.
fine.
The husband could be waiting in Charleston, South
My
Carolina.
husband could be down there.
Could be.
I am
Soulmate.
jealous. I was telling her my favorite restaurants when I go to Charleston. You said you did go to Saltwater?
We did. Saltwater Cowboys.
So good. Charleston's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, whatever life has for me down there.
Yeah.
Just new experiences.
Yeah.
More than likely going to start training for another physical
You'll-
goal, cycling.
Yeah,
I'll
cycling.
more than likely get into that. So that'll take up a good bit of my time. Because when I commit to something, I go all in. There's no like, let me dance around with this for a little bit. Or if I have a goal and my mind is set on it, I go for it. I don't, there's nothing going to stop.
So if you do cycling, what would that look like for you for goals? Tour de France in 20 what? What are we talking? Like would you I mean what when you
She's like, yeah.
Probably.
is that what you do? You just it's like anything with any sport I've found, especially like the environments you've been in, it does seem like if you get into them seriously, it's almost like you went and did that race with Brock, right? But Brock, who does ultra marathons, that once you get into and you compete and you do that, you find immediately there's a community here. You find what everybody else is aspiring toward, the equipment everybody else is using. You just get sucked into the culture of that. And next thing you know, you're buying a $10,000 bike. You're getting a $1,700 helmet for some reason. You know, you're getting all that gear and that stuff, and you're the type you'll go serious all the way in. Figure out what's the next race? Okay, I'm going to do that race. Then see how I do on that race, and the next one. Like, is that what you would imagine?
More than likely.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing again is not necessarily the physical goal, because those change and you know life changes. It is helping me develop even further. You know, I will always, probably until the day I die, need some physical form of expression to get to know who I am on a deeper level, like layer by layer by layer. I'm like an onion. I just want to peel off layer by layer of who I am. You know,
Why do you think they're all physical? I mean, I know. I'm just curious.
my goals.
Yeah. Well, no. Like you said, in order for me to get to a deeper understanding of who I am, like that. What I'm saying is, it seems like up until now, for you have kind of experienced that, or kind of discovering your soul, right? But it's always been attached to the physical.
Yeah.
And you kind of almost express that. So do you think there's ever a point where doesn't have to be connected to the physical for you? Like, what does that look like, I guess? Because I see on your arm.
Yeah.
What did your arm say?
Journey to my soul.
What does that mean to you?
Like we were just saying, it's like layer by layer.
Okay.
I think getting to know who I am at a soul level.
Yeah.
I don't think that we are just a physical being. I think we're spiritual beings having an earthly experience. So, spirit, soul, whatever you want to say.
Sure.
I just thought soul looked better than spirit.
No.
But, just getting to the absolute depth of who I am. And to me, it has been a physical journey. Like that is what has allowed me to get to that point. I don't know anything else. Now, if God is like, hey, there's another door for you to open.
Well, the reason why I ask is because you're probably more of a rare breed, obviously, when it comes to the physical things that you've aspired to do and have done. And I think most people, when they think about the journey to their soul, they don't think about through the physical as much as you have.
Yeah.
And I do understand, though, to what you're saying. It's like even people run ultra marathons, like we said, Brock, we talked to him. It's like they experience different levels of like, your world gets quiet. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden you're just living with your thought. Probably you're out running mile 110 and you're on the backside of this. There's so much of that is just you. You're with you. And so I imagine with a lot of it's been physical. Most people that aren't doing extreme sports would say probably their journey to their soul maybe more through a counselor or through therapy or through whatever. And so it's just, I find it fascinating when people, I find you fascinating, people that just like, you can, I think, probably tap into a level of who you are through the physical, pushing yourself to extremes, all of that. But do you think there's other avenues as well that maybe you would, spiritually speaking, I think too, obviously being part of this church, but I think there's a lot of what we do and speak to and talk about, and obviously you're part of that also helps you kind of begin to unpack who you are, right? So obviously there's a spiritual element and through church and other things that probably also help you.
Yeah, like having conversations like these. I met with Pastor Russ last week and just having these type of conversations, definitely allow me to kind of express who I am a little bit more and tap into that more. The biggest thing that I've run into is finding people who are, I guess, who see life like I do. If I have these types of conversations with people my age, like they're like, you're pretty well crazy.
I bet you get that a lot.
So
can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
So here's what because I love that question because you are a rare breed and it's honestly inspiring.
Yeah.
And
I'm ready to go work out right now.
I know.
Even I did this morning.
Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and do like a humble brag. I'm just going to do it.
Okay.
Now, when I say this compared to what you do, it's going to sound like a humble self punch. But
this is not going to be good.
Saturday, I told you.
No, you
I did text
actually,
you.
You texted me. You were so proud of yourself.
I was okay.
Go
You make
ahead.
it sound so stupid. Well, I had to tell somebody.
That's a big deal.
I had to tell somebody.
I
so for me,
appreciate it.
I'm not a runner. Like I go to the gym. You may not can
Not
tell,
with that
but
attitude.
okay. But especially in warmer weather, like I'll just go, and it's usually 2 or 3 miles. I'm not like a long distance runner, but Saturday I went to the Schiller Park, and it was like it's closer to sunset, like 5 or 6, so it wasn't quite as hot, and I just got in a flow. So for me, I was like, oh, it felt so good. I just was like, I could do one more mile. So I ended up doing 10 miles, which for me, to the Brocks of the world, not a big deal. For me, big deal. But in the middle of that, like I'm like around mile 6 or 7, this euphoria hits.
The runner's high, they call it.
It's the runner's high, and I just felt like it's like clarity, and it's like just. It is an incredible feeling, and it's way more healthy than drugs.
Yes.
I got that. But part of me is like, okay, it could be easy to use that as an escape.
Yeah.
And so I think your question is valid because it's like, okay, we are mind, body, soul, and spirit, and we can't ignore any of those. So like kind of what you were saying, and something I've been working on in a writing project is the way I phrase it is I think a healthy way to really get to your soul is the 3 Ps: a peer, a pastor, and a professional. So to have a peer or two in your life that's healthy, around your same age, faith-filled, that you trust, to just on an ongoing basis have open. They know you inside and out, and there's just honest vulnerability. A pastor or pastor figure in your life, that there's some honesty, accountability, that there's spiritual direction, oversight. And then I'm glad that we live in the day and age where, for the most part, spiritual counselors and therapists are no longer taboo. Having a professional. I honestly think everybody at some point in their life should see a professional counselor. Like, I know I have several times, still do. Almost all that my heroes I look up to, all see them. And so, I don't know what that looks like for you or anybody listening, but I just think that's a healthy way, depending on the journey in your life, to have those three in your life. Because it's kind of like, what was it Dr. West always says? It's impossible to see the label when you're stuck inside the bottle. And it's not until you, I feel like, have those kind of relationships in you that can kind of help you see yourself. So I just think it's a valid question. Like,
no, that's awesome.
I have some like just purely self-indulgent questions.
Okay.
I just want to, because I just think it's fascinating. I mean, not as much questions as much as like, I'll say this and you just riff for a minute. How's that sound? You're a carnivore.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you did mention that.
So, give me a 2-minute spiel on you being a carnivore. You've joined the likes of Jordan Peterson and
Andrew Huberman.
Andrew
You should probably
Huberman.
Explain, you mean carnivore diet.
Explain.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
I mean, because...
so I don't see it as a diet. I see it as a lifestyle. That's first.
Hey.
Well, okay. All right. Okay, then we're just going to put you in the category of carnivore.
I'm just saying.
You're not a herbivore.
Because some people think diet and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
But okay, so carnivore is purely meat based. I eat meat, red meat.
So meat only.
Only meat.
You
Only
don't do fruits
No
and don't do
vegetables.
vegetables.
No.
This is what I said. Not a herbivore. Not an omnivore.
Yeah.
Carny.
You're a carnivore.
Pure
100%.
carnivore.
I would
So-
say carny because that has a whole
Yeah,
nother
not a carny.
connotation. When I go to a fair and I see
Yeah,
a carny,
yeah.
you're
Yeah.
a carnivore.
Yes.
So you only eat meat. I know somebody else that has lived for that lifestyle for a couple years, right? So
So yeah, just fully. I eat red meat, salt, and water. That's it.
no carbs.
No.
You don't do okay. So,
And you've never smoked or drank your whole
never,
life.
Absolutely, and I never will. I would never
Amen.
put that in my
Oh,
body.
Wow. Yes. I'm with you. I'm with you. Okay. But no. So the carnivore diet. I know somebody else, a friend of mine, who did this. Actually, lost a bunch of weight doing this. He was pretty heavy at the time, and then did
Randy?
this for no. He does not part of our community. And he did this. I was shocked that his levels were fine. I'm like, okay, how's your cholesterol? You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
All those things, and they were good. They actually got better.
Yep.
This is the way he would eat. I'm curious. He would sometimes just brown up ground beef, maybe 2-3 pounds of ground beef. I guess you put a little salt on it, and he would eat that. And he might not really eat again for another 2 days.
Yeah.
Maybe depending on how much he ate, because he literally would be like, I'd be full and not want to eat for like days.
Because of the fat.
Is
It's
that
the
what
fat
it is?
content.
The fat
Yeah.
content. So you're getting a lot of fat. You're getting protein.
That's it.
But that's no vitamins. Are you taking vitamins?
No.
You don't do any supplements.
No, I don't need to. I get my blood work done, regularly, and
No deficiencies.
none.
Really?
None. So
You
when
don't crave pizza?
No. when you switch to like a meat-based diet or all meat or whatever, the body no longer converts carbs for fuel. So my body runs off of fat. So like
So are you in a state of ketosis?
constantly.
Constant. Amen.
So, when I'm training or working out or, doing anything and my body is burning energy, it's burning fat.
Which is what you would do on a keto diet. You would supposed to take in high amounts of fat.
Yeah.
But then everybody's like, that's so
no.
dangerous
Yeah.
doing
Cholesterol.
high amounts of fat.
Yeah.
You
No,
don't look that
so-
fat.
And you do animal-based products too, like eggs.
I used to, I didn't digest them very well, so I
Okay.
stopped. So for a while I was doing just like beef and eggs. But the eggs, I just found that I wasn't digesting very well, and I felt great when I was just eating meat. So I was like, well,
So
let
is
me
it just
go
red
into
meat or you do white meat too?
No, you have to, when you do carnivore,
Okay.
99% of it needs to be red meat, fat-based.
Really?
It has to be high
'Cause you
fat
need the fat.
You have to have it.
You don't get as much fat
If
on lean
you-
white meats.
You wouldn't survive probably.
Do you do fish?
No. No, I don't. I just do meat. I do brisket, ribeye, and ground beef.
So tell me your breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Well, she just did. Brisket for breakfast, ribeye for lunch, and ground beef for dinner. No,
Wait, really?
I'm joking. I'm just exaggerating. So go ahead, tell us.
Yeah, typically I'll do
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You eat 3 meals or no?
Yes, I do. So I do about 2 to 2.5 pounds of meat per day. So I'll do ground beef, and I'll have probably 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of that, and then sometimes a 1/2 pound or 1 pound of brisket. It just really depends on how I'm feeling. But
And you don't feel like you're missing anything nutrients wise from no fruits and vegetables?
no, my body. I eat what my body wants. I don't eat what my
Me
mind
too.
wants.
Me too. It's not brisket and ground beef most of the time, but
It's pizza, but without cheese.
Yeah.
I like cheese in my pizza. What are you talking about?
You do like cheese.
So do you think it's okay now? Well, I guess if you cycle, you're going to keep training. Do you think if you ever stopped doing the serious training, that it would have changed what you would eat? Or
Probably not.
No?
I'm just so, and I think you're right. Like I am a little different and kind of crazy. I'm just so extreme.
Yeah.
Like my mind just doesn't register like options. It just registers like
that's
gonna be the quote.
Yeah.
My mind doesn't. Okay,
Here we go. Options are weakness.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I want to say
Leaving the body.
We're gonna say this
Yeah.
all summer long. These are not prescriptive.
Yeah,
we're
please
not making
don't.
recommendations.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
think anybody's going to
Okay.
listen and go.
Okay, here's another thing I want you to riff on for 2 minutes. Your thoughts on Western medicine and qi and chi.
well. So let me preface this by saying, like, I have nothing against Western medicine. I think it's very good at treating people, for if you get an accident or, things like that. As far as preventative, I think it's garbage here in the States. I think that big pharma is, very tied into our food. So that's another thing, going back real quick to what I eat. I would never buy my meat at Kroger or Walmart or anything like that. I source it straight from a farm that I know where it's coming from. The antibiotics that are going in these animals, hormones, things like that. Big Pharma runs our world. They run our prescriptions and they run our food. So if you have sick people, it's just a trickle-down effect. Let's make these people sick, unhealthy, unhappy, so that they rely on the system.
What do they call the American diet? SAD, standard American diet.
Yeah. So, I don't follow traditional medicine here. Like, I absolutely refuse it. I think that, like which I'm never, ever, ever sick. But the last time I think I was sick, I was 2020. I had gotten strep throat or something. I refused to go.
Did you also lose your sense of smell?
Maybe.
I'm just kidding. Okay.
Maybe. So you might have also had COVID
Yeah.
at some point, but
Yeah.
so you don't get sick very often.
I don't. And
I mean,
truly,
you also have isolated yourself from the rest of the world.
that could be why I just hid in
I
my
just
house.
wanted to point
I
that
just hid
out.
in my house. No, I think it's just
Sure.
my
Well, your
lifestyle.
body and your health, your immune system, all is probably very strong. I mean,
Very.
you're
And the way that I eat, I have no inflammation. So
Yeah.
sickness breeds off of inflammation. If the body doesn't hold inflammation, you can it's almost impossible to get sick. But I also think we can take it a step further, and I think there's like a spiritual side of things. It's like when God is calling you home, He will do what He needs to do to get you there.
You read a lot of Tony Robbins, don't you?
I enjoy him.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Talk to me about the psoas muscle.
Psoas
Muscle. Do you know about this?
the what?
So
the psoas muscle.
Psoas is PSOAS.
Okay.
So that muscle is a muscle that starts underneath the rib cage.
Mm-hmm.
It goes all the way down like the front of the pelvic, and it wraps around the back into the low back area. So like sciatica, that area. I learned this actually from my Russian sports scientist coach, and the psoas is a muscle that stores most emotional trauma that we go through as a human, like from childhood on. And we would do a lot of like manual work, like, you know, therapy, physical therapy, whatever. When I was training down in Florida with Dr. Romanoff, and
Dr. Romanoff. Sorry,
Yeah.
Russian spy.
so we would.
Is this valid for everybody or just Russians?
It could. It's everywhere.
Okay, hold on. I want to look it up. Wait, PSOAS muscle. Okay.
And type in emotional or what?
So as muscle is a long ribbon-shaped muscle. This is AI's response, so who knows how to that runs from the lower back to the top of the hips on either side of the spine. It's one of the core muscles in the abdomen and is considered one of the most important muscles that lie over the vertebral column. Has many functions. And it says stuff. Again, this is only going to be physical. You probably have to look. But that's interesting, the
there's
idea
definitely
of
an emotional component.
Yeah, you had a story where, like...
Yeah, so when I was... Before training, we would always do treatment, you know, just to like get the body loose and whatnot. And when, like, if they were doing manual work on my psoas, sometimes it would make me sick. And I never understood why. And Dr. Romanoff was like, because you're releasing the emotional energy that is stored in the psoas.
Wow.
If you look it up, like psoas muscle, emotional.
Yeah, I see stuff on here.
Definitely, you know,
They said it's known as the muscle of the soul.
Yeah.
The emotional
Wow.
muscle. But I think
You need to put that in a book.
But I think what it's just fascinating. What it does is it seems like that where it says stores emotional trauma and stress. But my guess is that when there's an emotional or a stress trigger in your body, the hormones and things that are released throughout the body, of course, other things, maybe they tend to kind of collect or hold there, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
Again, I do really like this. I might be working on a project in regards to something like this. This is kind of fascinating. But I think it shows that there's sometimes this connection or crossover. Again, what we would call in a metaphysical sense a soul, but there's this connection between more the emotional with the physical. You know, and so it's
Well, I
so
told
you
her
would feel
about-
sick if you worked out abdomen or certain things, certain stuff. It would make you feel sick. You'd say
Just whenever I would be specifically working targeting on the psoas, you know, to release that muscle, you know, because when you have stress, you know, your body restricts, right? And so as you're like lengthening and stretching this muscle out, everything is releasing. So it's, you know, far beyond what I can comprehend, but you're releasing these emotional traumas, stored energies, things like that.
Well, I told her, remind me of that book. I still haven't read, but everybody always talks about The Body Keeps Score.
It does.
And I was like, yeah. And then you made a statement I actually wrote down, the mouth lies, but the body doesn't.
Yeah.
I was like, that's...
Okay, what do you mean by that?
My coach would always say that. He's like, Kylie, you know, because he's actually a physiotherapist in New Zealand, good friend as well. He's 55 years old. He's traveled the world working with like some of the best athletes in the world. And he would always say that he would know how happy or at peace the person is the moment he puts his hands like on the body.
Wow.
Because sorry. I keep
No,
kicking
sorry.
you.
I didn't realize I was kicking you.
Because it's, you know, the body, it stores everything. Like you were just saying, the body keeps score. So that's where I got that from. That's what he would always say. He said it was always the psoas and the solar plexus area. So, which I don't know so much about.
In the gut.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
There's so many places we could go.
Yeah.
Psilocybin, you know, all kind of things. But also, you don't have a TV in your house.
I do, but it's more just for decoration. I don't watch TV. There's so much, just distractions.
Is that why?
That's really why.
Just distractions?
It's just the constant stimulus and noise. Like I was just in the airport coming back from Charleston yesterday, and I was sitting there, just really enjoying the views of the sun and everything, waiting on our plane. And I am not kidding you. Every single person was on their phone.
Yeah.
For hours. And it's like, what? Why? Like, why do you need to be this distracted? Like, how, you think back to when you were a child, like, we didn't need our phones. We had an imagination. We were creative. We played. We interacted with other humans.
Yep.
We played barefoot. We, we lived a good life. And, it's like, this is how, like, society is pushing us now.
Yeah.
It's like, let me feed you awful food to spike your dopamine so that you become addicted to it, so that you get sick. So then you need to go to the doctor. Then you need medicine. It's just this trickle down effect. So yeah, that's just my answer why I don't do phone or social media. Like, my brother, he's always like, if you need to get a hold of Kylie, call grandma and she'll drive to your house. Like, because
you are close with your family.
I do have a phone.
You do have
I
a
at least have a
phone.
phone.
You do have a phone, but you don't.
Doesn't go with me very often.
Really?
Yeah.
In my car.
You know what? I really admire that.
Yeah.
I do. I think in a world where we're all very, very connected digitally,
Very much.
that it is. I mean, it's noticeable. It's a distraction, and it's so easy to be sucked into it. And so I admire, and I think that's probably partly why you are a different breed from most people, and that's probably why you've been successful in what you've been, and why you will probably continue to be successful in whatever you put your mind to, because you have no distractions, and so you're just really focused.
But you're
It's
not
all business.
But you're not arrogant. Like you, and that's what my original thought even too was. I was like, because I don't even know if we met before, but you reached out while you're trying to make the decision, and you wanted to surround yourself with people's thoughts.
Yes.
Yeah. And you want, and we've been in this series of James of like, there's safety in the multitude of counselors, and so you've done that, and I just thought to myself, I know you're getting ready to move to Charleston. I just thought to myself, okay, this would be a fascinating conversation of a 28.
Yep.
28-year-old girl, almost went Olympic, crazy drive, barely uses her phone, no social media, has never drank, has never smoked, and just has a fascinating view on life. And
only eats meat.
Only eats
only
meat.
eats meat.
I love it.
And so,
and I do think it's I just think that is a fascinating. I don't know. Your journey has been so interesting to get to hear, and I'm sad that you're leaving, and we're just now getting to sit down and have this conversation. But I wish you the best in what you do, and we're always here for you, and you can always. If you had a computer or if you on the phone with any kind of internet service, you could probably at least stay connected. But hey, I mean,
well, we'll do a follow-up podcast in about a year, and Pastor Tim and I will take our horses and gallop on down to Charleston.
I thought you were going to say eat them. We're going to take
or your bikes.
Or our bikes. Yeah, that's
you
true.
should ride your bikes.
Yeah, you'll come back and visit. You're keeping your place here, right?
Yep.
And your family's from here.
Correct.
And so you'll come back and visit and come say hi, right?
For sure.
You'll come back and visit. Well, we wish you the best on
Yeah.
wherever you go, whatever you do, and hopefully the last couple of years here have been at least a positive investment in your life and helped connect you closer to God and your journey and where you go. And but it's really cool to hear your story. You are a very, very driven 28-year-old, and I love that.
Thank you.
I do. I love that because I think that again, I don't want to typecast any different generation or anything, but there are a lot of 20-year-olds that have no idea what they're doing, maybe spinning their wheels, spending all the time on social media, have no direction for life, none of that. And you are the exact opposite. And that is it's just amazing. That's incredible.
I appreciate that.
It really is.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on. In the future, tell Lance Armstrong I said hi.
I think Lance Armstrong was invited to France.
Okay, that's
Pretty sure that he's banned from entering that country.
Okay, I know you don't have a phone, but or you
There's
have a
no
phone.
way for people to
Okay.
connect
Just
or
do me
reach.
this. You have my number and my
do.
email. I just need a sunset pic from Saltwater
Deal.
Cowboys, and that will get me through.
Deal.
That will get me through. All right. Thanks for being on.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Wish you
Absolutely.
the best. You're leaving, and this will be one of the last times we probably see you for a little bit in
Yeah.
Thank you.
South Carolina. Hope things go well for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, I can't promise the correspondence that you'll get back from Kylie, but if any of this spurred on any questions, send those to us always at podcast@thex.church. And until next week, we will see you then.
Hey guys, it's Russ. Thanks so much for listening. We really believe if we can get around tables instead of behind screens, if we can talk to each other instead of at each other, we can make the world better. To help us do that, here are a few things you can do to help. First, if you haven't yet, leave a review on Apple or Spotify and hit subscribe on YouTube. This helps more than you know. Also, if you have been impacted by the community out of which this podcast comes, that's X Church. Maybe you're local or you've been touched by the messages and impact across the country, even the world. I want to encourage you to support this work. A powerful life principle is to invest in the people and places that invest in you. And so I want to invite you to do that right now by going to thex.church/give. You can give a one-time small gift, a sacrificial gift, or even become a recurring partner. Together, let's keep elevating the conversation, thinking higher, loving deeper, and making the world better. Cheers.